Okay. Go ahead and mute the Twitch page, send out the Twitter, get the bot in here, and send out the Discord. Alright, we should be good. Hello everyone, this is Chris Ingerson, and it is February 10th, and this is the February 10th TextQuest Devstream. So, today, it's Saturday, meaning we're going to do more custom adventure stuff, and I think we're kind of at an impasse until we get custom game logic set up. So, we're going to start doing that. I have admittedly no idea how well this is going to turn out, if it does turn out well at all. I have a rough idea of how we want to handle this. It's a little strange, but I think I know how we can do this. I'm really curious to see how well this goes, but I think this will work. Okay, so I guess we'll go ahead and just jump into the custom adventure stuff to show you where we are currently, and then I'll kind of talk about what we need to do. But last weekend we got end game quit screen stuff to kind of start being customizable, but we don't have an actual end game screen yet, and we can't finish that stuff until we have custom logic set up. I mean, we can kind of finish the in-game screen stuff, but we can't really do too much in terms of finishing the actual in-game screen customization without custom logic. So if we go currently, I guess we didn't really need to go to the map. If I play, if I get to the end of the game, which is just going south there, oh, that's interesting. Oh, oh dear, that might have broke everything, actually. Ugh, that is not okay. Well, at least we got, looks like things actually still work, which is semi-okay then? Actually, hold on. Quit. Oh, that is really not good. Ugh. Let's see, transform.local. Interesting. Well, we seem to be getting start room and den. I mean, we're moving everything around. Let's go ahead and quit. Load back in, and that's not good. We are clearly running into some problems here. We quit, load back in. Okay, so that's busted, but if we load that, oh dear. Okay, well, we're going to fix this issue real quick, because this is apparently a huge problem. Well, not apparently, this is actually a very, very massive problem. Interesting. Let's see, room connection. Room connection. I get the feeling this is actually not going to be the thing that I need. Let's go ahead and open this up, because it's probably just getting passed in bad values. Input rotation is not a number across the board. Let's see, room connection 129. So I guess first thing we're going to do today is fix this little issue. And we're getting a quaternion Euler dot of 0, 0, and then angle, which means that angle is somehow not a number? Well, that's not exactly great. I guess I probably should also do this. Show and Explorer. Let's go to our custom library, look at our Zork. And we need to look at our connection rotations, which are actually kind of irrelevant, right? It's probably going to be at the bottom, isn't it? Yeah, connections. Yeah, connections don't have that stuff stored. And that's because it gets set based on node position. So that means I'm calculating it incorrectly. And or for some reason it's just not being set up properly. This is odd. We never ran into this issue before. So if I quit, I'm going to go ahead and clear this as well. Go back. It's busted. Question mark? It's not. Quit. What the freak? So it like alternates. It's... What is going on here? Oh, and also I guess we're loading backgrounds all the time. Well, that's kind of not great. Oh no, that's just saying that it exists. That's fine then. But why does quitting out seem to put everything back? Huh. And now we don't get errors. If I do this. Oh, okay. I thought for a second that it like had doubled the size of everything, but no. Huh. Interesting. This is rather odd. I don't really know why it would be doing this. Connection list all seems good. Huh. That is strange. Okay. Well, let's go ahead and come back here and why would it sometimes work and sometimes not? I don't really know what to do here. Well, it's a relatively minor issue for now, I guess. In any case, one of the things that we need to handle are things like room logic. So we would need to be able to say like, when the player enters this room, what do you want to have happen? When the player exits this room, what do you want to have happen? What happens if the player does something to a specific object in the room? What do you want to have happen? Now, of course, all of these things are going to have to be by necessity pretty general use. I can't really get into specifics. I can try to set up custom logic nodes, I guess, which would basically just be like graphs being compressed down to a single node. I mean, I could do stuff like that. The main problem comes when we're trying to do minutia, which we just might not be able to support. And I think for now, I'm going to keep my logic relatively basic. So we're talking about room enter, exit events, interacting with specific objects in a room events. What else would we want? Custom. Oh, geez. Am I going to have custom or separation of nodes? So I'm actually kind of thinking, I was talking about how I can't really progress with the custom in-game screen without logic, but that logic would actually be kind of different. Or it would be a special version of the logic. That's not particularly great. Let me think. Actually, no, it wouldn't be. It would be basically just relegated to displaying a specific variable. In which case, that actually wouldn't be too bad. Trying to be really flexible to allow people to make the adventure games that they would want is a little daunting. But I suppose for now we can just start with a basic front. So that's those are the two major uses right now, I believe, for custom scripting. Mostly room logic, room-specific logic, probably game-specific logic as well. So you could have kind of a logic that automatically ticks up every time you enter a room, for example. And then you could have logic per room when it's entered. So we would actually need something probably in game settings. There would be like game loop here. Instead of just in-game, we would have info, constants, in-game, and then inside here somewhere is probably going to be game loop. And then that can have custom logic applied to it. Like every time we enter a room, increment this number by this amount. Pretty basic stuff that you'd want to have happen often. But let's go ahead and go back here. So now we need to figure out how we want to approach this topic. So I'm going to lay out a couple of the ways that I could possibly handle this, and then we'll select the one that I think is the best. So Quick and dirty way would be to have IDs for behaviors. Um, so I would have basically like a node that has a effect title. Oh geez, am I gonna have to allow you to rename these nodes? Probably not. Okay, but they are gonna need stuff piped into them now, aren't they? Jeez, oh my god, this whole thing is sprawling pretty quickly. I'm already going to have to have like connections and output types, which will of course probably be colored to signify what they are. So let's say you have like a string. Let's string together a simple case, and then of course give my cat attention because she wants attention. So let's say you want when you enter a room for the first time, you want to set a Boolean to be true. Now, of course, our game is already tracking some stuff like that, but maybe you have custom logic that you want to execute. Oh, geez, that means I need to actually expose those things. Okay. Jeez. Let's just start with a simple use case. I think we're gonna start with. God, I'm basically making visual scripting. Actually, that's not basically. I am making visual scripting. I think we're going to start in a test scene. We're not going to have this hooked into our main stuff yet. We're going to start with a test scene that will allow you to say on event fired, which will manually allow you to trigger that event in this test scene. I want to output a string. That's all I want to do. I want to just output a string to a debug. So we're gonna have some weird editor specific stuff while we're starting out. Hopefully by the end of today we'll be able to do things like get variables and set variables, and maybe detect when you've entered a room and when you've exited a room. And that's really optimistic, honestly. I will be amazed if we get all 4 of those things done. I'll be kind of amazed if we get one of those things done, actually. I'm not gonna lie. There's a lot that needs to happen here. Anyway, so the approaches that I can take is I can basically have like a node that has a specific ID, and that node can have a behavior on it that then will do a specific thing. Or, and this is the way I'm kind of preferring, nodes are just generic. They just they have a field for a scriptable object, and that object will have the behavior inside of it that's expected. So I'll have one prefab per node that can auto-expand its name, similar to our map screen. And it will have an arbitrary number of inputs, an arbitrary number of outputs. Actually, it would probably have one input and one output that it can do. No, that's probably not true. It probably needs to have an arbitrary number of outputs, but it probably does not need an arbitrary number of inputs. Again, specific to the scriptable behavior, or the scriptable object's behavior, which the scriptable object will be fed in what it expects, and it will know what it's going to get after the fact, or what it's going to do with all that data, and then it's going to spit it back out. And then we'll just have a collection of IDs and those scriptable objects. So when you request, I want the node that sets a Boolean in my variables to be true. That's just got an ID, an int ID, that will then be associated with the scriptable object in a list somewhere. It'll just look that up, give you a node, assign that scriptable object, generate the title, and then boom, we're done. That's doing what it's doing. Oh boy, that is really nuts. I really hope I don't have to do like a debug script. Oh, jeez. It's turning into like Bethesda Creation Kit. Obviously nowhere near as robust, but I get the feeling that, and I'm going to apologize for this way in advance, I am going to be probably making a lot of strange and exasperated sounds today because of the, I don't want to say tedium, but the complexity of this. This is going to probably drive me insane. Okay, well, let's get started on this. Okay, so we're going to have content creation. I'm going to go ahead and say create folder, and we're going to call this logic. Okay, so we're going to have core logic. I'm going to say core, and then we are going to let's go ahead and create real quick C# script. So this is going to be a CG underscore logic behavior. That's pretty much going to be, I think that's going to be the core class for all derived behaviors. So it's not going to be anything super crazy or complex. Go ahead and allow that to load. Get rid of the room connection stuff. All right, make sure this is in the text quest namespace. It is going to be from scriptable objects, not mono behavior, and jeez, this is already going to be fun. So I need to have methods for receiving strings and methods for outputting values. Oh, geez. Let's see. So we're going to need, go ahead and add an enum for CG underscore logic variable type, maybe, or logic parameter type. Because I need to specify what a specific logic node wants, so what it needs to be fed in, either a string or an int or a float of some kind. And I think those would honestly be the only three. It's probably going to have to allow for interactive objects as well. So let's go ahead, right click on here, and of course once that's done compiling. And actually, you know what, I think I'm going to try and create an assembly definition for my content creation so I can speed this stuff up. So I'm going to say sleepy owl dot text quest I can't spell dot custom adventure custom adventure or custom adventures. I guess I'll say custom adventures because that sounds a little bit better. So that should compile everything within the content creation folder. That's obviously going to break because we're going to need to specify that we have a reference to common and to text quest. But then we should be good, I think. We'll find out. Really? There wasn't a... Oh, there it is. I was going to say, I can't believe that there wasn't a warning or error. Let's see. So we want sleepy owl text quest there. And I believe we're also going to want common. So we're going to want to have sleepy owl common. We'll hit apply there. And I think that's everything that we're going to need. So let's see. Content create. Oh, crud. Texture editing might throw some things into whack. Custom game input view. Custom game session. Oh, okay. This needs to be moved. That would be why. Let's go ahead and add a field for input here. Folder, input. We're just going to move this over, and that should solve that little issue. Okay. And then I believe that will... Oh, geez. I might have actually made this worse now that I think about it, because parts of TextQuest are going to have to know about this thing, aren't they? Well, I can't have cyclical relations like that. Dang it. That won't help me at all. Fine, I guess I can't actually do that. I should have realized that I can't... I wouldn't be able to do that anyway. Because the extras menu has to be able to reference one of the custom game menus, and if the custom game menus are in a assembly definition that relies on TextQuest, I can't have an assembly definition for TextQuest rely on the custom adventure stuff, because that's cyclical, and therefore it doesn't work. That's disappointing. Oh, right, you're going to complain because of that. Hold on. I now have to delete my, let's see, Sleepy Owl TextQuest, custom adventures, delete. That should force a recompile, and then we should be back to normal. Probably for the best, though, that I do move the custom game input view to the custom game stuff, or to be underneath the custom game folder. Oh no. Oh no! Ah, crap. I filled up my water bottle, and I left it in the kitchen. Profound sadness. Okay, guess I won't get the drink on the Devstream today. Or did I put it on the ground? Did I put it somewhere stupid? Nope. Okay, that's disappointing. Alright, so I guess I can't speed that up at all. So let's go ahead and say create. C# script, CG underscore logic param type. All right. So this is going to be basically a small enum that's going to have strings, floats, bools, ints, and interactive objects and items. So those 6 things. And I think that's really all I'm going to need, because everything else, well, there's not really anything else that custom games can generate. That's going to be one of those 6 types. Go ahead and let this reload. Oh, crap. That's going to have to... Right. Yeah, give that time. Well, speaking of loading bars, actually, I probably should go ahead and say coding, because we're going to be doing that today. Oh my god. Seriously, you just did that. Hey. Let's go ahead and open this up. Alright. What is going on here? Alright, so this is going to be in the text quest namespace. Ta-da! And on top of that, we're going to make this a byte array. Well, byte enum. We're going to get rid of Unity Engine because we don't actually need that in the script. Okay, so none, which is actually an acceptable thing, because obviously I'm going to need getters. So we're going to say none is equal to 0. We'll say string is equal to 5. Int is equal to, actually let's do bool next. So we'll say boolean is equal to 6. Int integer is equal to 7. Float is equal to 8. Oops. There we go. Then we will have, I'm just going to call these basic types. We're going to have advanced types. Okay. We're going to say interactive object is equal to, we'll say 15, we'll say 20. And then item is going to be equal to 21. Okay, pretty simple. I think that's all we really need. For this, we're going to want to say serialized field. Oh, should that be serialized? I'm going to get it. Yeah, it's fine. Private CG logic param type. Say input. Input types, or type, I guess, is equal to param type dot none. Oh dear, should I modifiers? I don't think I'll need modifiers, at least not right now. So we'll say, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and make it an array, just in case. Even if it's only ever going to be one, I want to have it be possible to input multiple things, just in case I need to try and split some stuff or do something fancy. So we'll say input types as equal to new. Can't type. CG underscore logic param type. We will always have it be prefaced with at least 1. If I could actually, make my array properly. Then we will have serialized field, private CG logic param type. These will be our output types, are equal to new param types. I guess we'll say 0 for this. We don't actually care about a default. Which I guess means that if my input types are just set to 0, then that would assume that there is no input. That kind of makes more sense. Let's go ahead and do that. We'll keep the none as a default parameter, or a value that I can send, I guess, just in case. And let's see, what else would we need? That's pretty much it for that, although we will need to make public getters for this, or for these. So we'll say CG logic param type, input types, get return, input types. Oh, come on. Like that. copy this. Paste that in. Do output types, capital O. Okay, we're going to make this an abstract class because this class is not meant to be used by its base stuff. Or no, this class is not meant to be used by itself. For this, I guess we would want to have public virtual void receive string. Ah, jeez. Yeah, string value. And we're pretty much just gonna copy and paste that a couple of times. So bool int float item. So say receive item, receive object, receive float, receive int, and receive bool. It's going to pass in a bool value. This is going to pass in an int float interactive object, then item. Okay, so unfortunately I can't make those abstract because it's not entirely possible. Well, I'm never going to need all of them. I'm only going to need one of them. Let's see here. Then we'll want an output of some kind. Although that actually is something that I think we can make an abstract function. Oh crap, no, because we might not have an output. Is that the case? No, that doesn't make... No, that's possible. For things like set bool, so let's say you want to set a variable in your game's logic, then there's no output there, it's just doing its thing. So we actually would want... I guess that needs to be abstract then. So we'll say public virtual void output. Do that. Okay. And what else would we need? That might be good enough to get us started at the very least. Okay. Oh wait, no. I need or rather I probably want input logic and output logic. So these would be the nodes that are attached. Crap, that won't really work. No, it would. I would just have private CG logic behavior, an array of that, obviously. So this would be input logics, and is equal to new. Do go ahead and serialize that field. We're gonna need same thing, but for outputs. Is the plural of logic? No, the plural of logic is logic, I believe. I want to look this up. Let's see, logic definition. It should give me a good, let's see, plural. No, it's just logic. It's weird though, I don't really want to call it logic. Like, that doesn't make sense. I feel like logic is singular. Even though I understand that logic can be... Would duplicitous be the correct term there? No, that means something else. Whatever. We'll say, no, let's just say output behaviors. That's better than logics. That sounds terrible. We are going to need to, of course, these. So we're going to say public CG logic behavior, input behaviors, get return input behaviors. Okay, copy this. Make these our output behaviors. Okay. now I believe we're in a good position, and I think that's all we need to do. So, let's see. We're going to now make our first behavior, like our first actual logic behavior. And I think we're going to start off fairly simple. We're going to make a behavior that can get a variable from the custom game logic. So once that compiles, I will make a folder for that. And I think all that behavior is not going to take an input because you're just getting a. Oh crap! No. Oh geez, you have to be able to customize these things. Oh, that means they need UI. Oh dear. Okay, this got way more complicated really quickly. Okay, so we're gonna have UI associated with this. So I'm gonna say UI, and oh geez, yeah, this is gonna get really nasty. Behaviors. So we're gonna drag that in. So on top of behaviors and UI, will we need any other real major components? Not that I can think of. So, oh geez, and it's going to have to be completely generic too. Oh man, this is going to be fun. All right, I know exactly how we're going. Well, not exactly, but I have an idea of how we want to do this, and this is going to be very interesting. Okay, close that. So, wow, really, I don't. Okay, so we're going to need a couple of things. So we're going to have nodes here. So we are going to first up create a C# script. Well, we would, except it's compiling, which makes me very nervous. So we're going to need a CG_logic node. And that is going to be the script that's used for all of the behaviors. Like I'm not going to have custom nodes per behavior. I'm going to have a single generic node that then creates its inputs and outputs as expected based on the scriptable object assigned to it. Oh boy, this is going to get crazy. Okay. So we're going to create C# script. We're going to say CG logic node. Okay. Let's go ahead, open that up. Make sure this is in the TextQuest namespace, and it is going to be a mono behavior. We are going to say using Unity Engine .ui. We will also be using TM Pro and probably using sleepyal.common. Okay. Let's go ahead and order those as they should be. So this is, what are we going to need for this? We're going to need lots and lots of things. I mean, first up, we'll obviously need. I'm just gonna make these public. It'll be much easier. Public CG logic behavior. Can I get away with that? Cool. I'm just gonna call that behavior. And for now, that's all we really care about. We'll need a public void initialize, call that, and we'll need a, do I need a cleanup? No. Yeah, I probably do actually. Public void cleanup, and oh yeah, we're also going to be using system.collections.generic. We're going to need a list. And that is, I think, all I can do right now, because I need to set up things like the like the individual fields for strings and whatnot. Oh boy. Oh boy, oh boy. Oh boy. Okay. And actually, you know what else we're going to need here is go to definition. No, no. Oh, no, that doesn't work. Think. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and say variable is equal to 10. We're going to call this custom game variable. So this will be the input that we expect when we want to get a custom game variable. So let's go ahead, go back here. Oh boy, this is turning into something terrifying. Let's go ahead and make some UI for this to kind of visualize everything that we're going to need, because it's going to be a couple of things. We're going to need a drop down for retrieving target UIs or target variables. We're going to need. Let's actually, you know what? Before we do any of that, let's go ahead and make some stuff here. So we're going to say game variables. Okay. We'll say folder. That was not what I meant to do. Let's rename that to set. Rename, or we'll create another one called get. Okay, so we're going to create some logic here. We're going to make a C# script. We're going to call this cg underscore get get bool logic. Yeah, that's probably good. All right, let's open this up. Okay, this is going to be in our text request namespace. This is going to derive from cg underscore logic behavior. We are going to have to override. Well, we're not going to override anything, I guess. We are going to want. Okay, let me think. Oh, and all of this stuff has to get parsed in at runtime. Jeez. Okay, let me think. Which is actually crazy. That means I need to compress this stuff down even further, because our behavior. Jeez. Oh, jeez. Not okay. Oh my god. I'm thinking. I apologize. I have already started out poorly. I can't do this. I can't do this input behaviors. No, I might be able to actually. Well, no, I can't. Can I? I started doing this wrong. So I need to actually change this a little bit. So I can't use input or output behaviors because those would be referencing specific behaviors. Instead, I need to reference, and I don't think I need to reference an ID. Well, no, I do need to reference an ID, but that's actually not in this class. So we're going to leave this alone for now. Hello, Gelmega. Welcome back. How are you doing today? So I don't actually want my behaviors to know what their input or output behaviors are. Instead, there needs to be a data class that has a reference to the logic behavior, which itself is referenced via ID. So the logic class is going to have, I'm just going to start scripting this actually. So let's go ahead and create a folder. We'll call this data. All right, so we're going to need a CG underscore logic data, I guess. And we have to have a separate data class because that's going to be the thing that actually holds the relevant information for its bindings. So we would have the data class reference an int ID for the behavior that it's associated with, an int ID for several int IDs for inputs, several int IDs for outputs, and that would be fine, I think. So let's go ahead and create C# script. And Cat, why are you on my shoulders? You're like a parrot. You're also on the side with the mic, which is probably going to cause some problems. I apologize if you hear rustling. My cat is currently on my left shoulder, which is where my mic is. All right, we're going to call this CG underscore logic data. Hello, Joshua. Welcome to the Devstream. How are you doing today? Let's see. Today, spend hours trying to figure something out because MSVC feature that makes it very annoying to do. I think I figured it out, but I still have to try it out. Yeah, it's always fun trying to figure stuff out, especially when your tools are kind of complicating it. All right. So this logic data class is going to contain information on the behavior that it is associated with, and the behaviors that are going into it, as well as behaviors going out of it. Whew, okay. This is actually good, and this is one of the reasons that I wanted to do a scriptable object approach, is because it lets me pass that information along without having to have actual references to objects in the scene. Good. Programming a Chip 8 emulator. Cool, cool. For anything specific or just for fun? Alright, we're going to make this a text quest namespace. Cat, I'm sorry, you're going to come off my shoulders. Having you move around while I'm streaming is kind of annoying. Okay, we're not going to have this be a mono behavior. It's just going to be a serialized class. Not that. System.serialize. System.serializable. Cool. MSVC makes DLL creation a bit annoying. Especially if that DLL includes code from a static library. Huh. Well, I guess I've never really... Wait. So you're trying to create DLLs? Or is that like one of the road bumps on your way to the thing that you actually want to do? Want to play some Pong? And that's... So you're programming an entire emulator so you can play Pong? Oh, hey. I can understand that, and I respect it. But you must really want to play some Pong then, man. Yeah, my engine is a DLL. Ah, okay. Alright, anyway, let's see. So CG logic data. So this is going to have public int behavior ID. It's going to be 0. Then we'll have public int array. Input IDs is equal to a new int 0, public int output IDs is equal to new int 0, and I think this will work, but we need to store the values somehow, which means that I need to store those in an array. Okay, I think I got it. I think I know what to do here. Okay, so we're going to need basically int IDs all over the place for things, which is fine. That's what we're doing. We already have that sort of already supported. And then we're also going to need a way of storing the relevant information, which is going to be super awkward because it could be an array of different value types. Oh dear. This is really not going to be fun. So I think we're going to do public object. Jeez. It'd be... Well, no. That stuff would get fed in, so never mind. I think that's all we need. We're just going to leave it at that for now. So let's go back here to get bool logic. And for this, let's go ahead and save all of this fun stuff. Our get bool logic is going to... Oh, geez, hold on. Actually, logic behavior. So, receive string. So get bool logic is actually going to have an input of a string. So we're just going to need to overwrite receive. Well, no. This is where it gets kind of odd. Because it's not really an input in the traditional sense. It's more like a special field. So I guess we would want to do something like... actually, hold on. Let me load this back in. I need a refresher on how I stored my variables. I'm pretty sure that variables are stored by string? Or are they stored by ID? They might be stored by ID, actually. They are stored by ID. Okay. So I need to pass in IDs, which is an integer, and then I need to do something with that integer. Okay. I'm gonna get something to drink, and if you want to know the problem, I'll tell you. I'm always happy to hear what other developers' problems are. So, yeah, go ahead and talk about it if you want. Pirate Bay is too dangerous for Pong, so I've resorted to making my own. You do what you gotta do. Sometimes pirating a 40-year-old game is incredibly difficult, so... Has it really been 40 years? Oh, has it been 50? No. It's getting there. It might actually be in the late 40s by now. In any case, let's go ahead and go back here. We'll let that compile. So this is going to be kind of weird because it's going to have a variable input. No, hold on. Geez, that's going to be kind of weird. Basically, what I'm trying to do right now is I'm trying to avoid having a get variable name that returns a string, which itself is actually a mask for an integer ID, that would then be passed into get bool logic as an integer. I would prefer it to just be possible to have a drop-down generated on the node that lets you store that information, but I might not really be able to do that. Except actually that wouldn't help anything, because then I would need a drop-down for the other thing. So, and I don't want you to have to type in that stuff by hand. That would suck. I would prefer to have a system that can automatically update all of your logic across the board should you choose to change a variable's name. Oh dear. Okay, this is getting... of course, it's always spiraling. So we're going to need a field for this. Okay. And that means that we actually don't care about this variable here. No. We do. It's just that it's going to have a special input field. Okay. Okay. I think I got it. I think I understand somewhat how to do this. Jeez, this is going to be nuts. Okay. Sorry, I keep humming and hawing. I'm kind of paralyzed by what backed in here. If you want to know the story of my hours of Google searching, trying to sort stuff out. Yeah, feel free to talk about it. I'm always happy to hear that. Besides, without your story, everyone's just going to have to listen to me going, no, it's so terrible, so complex. So, jeez, this is just going to get so friggin' messy. Okay. So I am going to keep the variable type here, and that is going to have a custom thing that gets fed into it. It's just going to be kind of weird. I think that will work. Okay. So, jeez, timeout. Things do need to actually store their values then, don't they? Crap! This is annoying because each individual behavior would ideally be serialized with their values. That doesn't make sense because they would all be coming in with those values. Have you ever tried programming an emulator? I have not. I've never really had a strong desire to do any sort of emulation. Like, well, creating an emulator anyway. It's something that would be interesting, I'm sure, but it's never been something that I've personally had to do, and I've never really had a reason to do it. But I do find it interesting in and of itself. But no, I haven't. Is this your first emulator, or are you working on, or have you worked on other ones too? Okay, so, jeez, this is super awkward. I'm trying to figure out how to store this information, because if it's a variable type, then that's going to be an integer, but I don't know where I'm going to get that. It's going to, I don't want to have a custom node for that. That would suck so much. I just went on a spiel about how I'm not going to have custom nodes. It would be nice to just generate these things. Come on. Think. How can I serialize that information? Because it's relevant for things pretty much exclusively for variables, admittedly, but I have to serialize that value somehow. And that means... Jeez, let me think. So that means that I probably want my logic behavior to have abstract functions for that. Yes, I believe that's right. Which does, I think that means that my logic data does need to have values that are serialized. They'll just be null most of the time, which is really, really dumb, and I really don't want to do that. Wait, no! I can do it. I can serialize it here, actually. I can still use input IDs and output IDs. That would work. My input IDs for... So let's say I have an input. Let's say I'm using my get bool logic. I'm going to have an input of 1. That's going to be a variable type. And that means that it's going to have one integer ID that's going to be the integer ID for the variable. I got it. Okay, good. We can work with that. And if that's the case, then it'll know that this integer that's being passed in, it's going to say, okay, for this index, are you a variable? If you're a variable, that means, okay, this is an integer ID for our variable type, or for our variable that we want to reference. So I'm not going to look for a behavior, and I'm not going to look for another node. I'm just going to say, okay, this is a variable type. Good. That also lets us serialize things like interactive objects and items, because those are also using integer IDs, and we can say, okay, this is an item or an interactive object, so I don't want to actually reference a behavior. I want to reference this integer's ID value for that interactive object. Got it. Okay, got it. So happy. I'm going to go ahead and make that a comment so I don't forget. Serialize int IDs for things like variables, objects, and items. Otherwise, use logic IDs. Got it. Sorry, that was kind of a bit of a spiel of me not being sure what to do, and I always like it when I get that feeling of I think I have an approach. Well, so I had a DLL, which included a static library, but because of the helpful feature on MSVC, it removes functions that are in the static library, but not in the DLL. Huh, that's odd. Which means that I can't call the function from the app that uses the DLL. Huh. My first have 3 instructions done. Well, I mean, you got to start somewhere, right? After a lot of searching, I found out that I needed a def file to tell MSVC that it needs to put those functions in the DLL, but a function like window close becomes... Oh, jeez. Oh, do you have like a escaped version of at? Or it could be a string literal that has to be interpreted. Huh. Anyway, so let's go ahead and go back to get bool logic. Okay, now that I have an ID, or an idea of how to handle this. Um, so we want probably also an initialize, I think. Let's say public virtual. No, it would be. Well, no, it wouldn't make sense for us to have an initialize here, would it? Because it's just going to have to figure out what it needs. So, wow, this is really nuts. So for get bool logic, we're going to have override receive int. Okay. Not going to call base. That doesn't do anything. So this int value is going to be our ID. So I'm going to need to say client dot crap, not client. Sorry, that's work. Global dot get custom game session followed by dot get variable, passing in the ID. Perfect. Okay. So we're going to say, what does that return? A variable, or CG variable data. So CG underscore variable data variable is equal to that. I'm going to say variable dot, okay, so here's where it gets kind of messed up. We're going to want to validate this basically. And then override output. Okay, that's not exactly great. So we're going to have to say, geez, hold on. This. Yeah, that's all kinds of not great syntax. Find out that CMake has a tool to convert the OBJ output of a compiler to a def file. Huh. Okay, so we're going to need in our base logic behavior, I think we're going to want to have public int input count. Sorry, input count. That's just going to say get return input types dot count. Oops, sorry, dot length. Dot length. Then public int output count get return output types dot length. Been working in lists too long, clearly. Dot length. I guess I could have also just compared those. We're going to go ahead and say if input count, I'm sorry, not input count, input types, which should probably be private or protected instead of private. All right, so if input types dot count. Why do I keep trying to say count? I should know that by now. I keep making that mistake. Let's see. So if that length is greater than 0, jeez. So if it's greater than 0, we want to make sure that we compare this. So we're going to say, no, I mean, we don't really care about that. Well, this is one of those really tough ones because I can do safety checks, but I'm the only one who's ever going to code this. So I don't feel the need to safety check this. Instead, I guess that means that, oh geez, crap. Okay. Yeah, that's not great. I think our outputs Oh, geez. Also, our inputs? No, no, no. Our outputs are going to need numbers. They're going to need an index passed to them so that we know what output it should go to. Oh, geez. This is really nuts. Okay. Um, Jeez. This is terrible. Okay. Because I just realized that I need to know what behavior to pass to, but I don't. Like I have no way of knowing that, which is not great. Um, okay. Well, let's go ahead and let that compile. And while it is doing so, I'm going to create a script, cg underscore logic collection. This is going to be a scriptable object that is filled with our logic associations and their IDs. Okay. Which, I guess their IDs are pretty much just going to be their indexes now that I think about it, and that's fine. There's no real need to worry about that, because that ensures that they're unique. Jeez. Let's see. The names you see are the decorated names generated by C++ compiler for a C++ library. If you open that link, scroll to the right. Okay. Wow. Wow. Jeez. That is nuts. Ugh. And that's the dark side of programming, is sometimes you have to do crazy things. Okay, so we have our logic collection, which I'm going to go ahead and just... Again, I think I'm just going to use integer IDs, so we don't really care that much about... Normally I would make a data class that has like an int ID and then a reference to whatever it's supposed to be associated with, but if I'm just going to use integers, then meh. That means that I can just do... Let's see, so this is going to be our scriptable object. Scriptable object. This is going to be in our TextQuest namespace. We're just going to have a public cg underscore logic behavior array. Call this behaviors is equal to new logic behavior of 0. We'll say public. I guess I should private serialized field. So this will be cg logic behavior get behavior. Is that a thing? Okay. Wow, it's a pretty good suggestion actually, based on int index. Sorry, ID. Okay. Okay, and we're just going to say if ID is greater than behaviors dot length minus 1, we will return null. And I guess we'll also say or ID is less than 0. Else we will return behaviors of ID. So pretty simple there. Don't really need to go much. That's pretty much it, isn't it? We will have... Let's go over here to logic data. I'm sorry, no. Get bool logic. Okay, here. Let's go over here to custom game session. Go to definition. We are going to have... Let's see. Default custom... We're going to say public. CG logic behavior. I'm sorry, logic collection. We're going to say logic behaviors. Okay. Come over here to get bool logic. We're not really going to do anything about that, but jeez, this cannot stand, can it? I have to use instanced logic, so I have to make these mono behaviors. If I try to make them scriptable objects, that allows them to be a lot more flexible, but it also means that I can't really do simultaneous data parsing without a clean input and output. But I can't really do that. which is problematic. Jeez, no. Let me think. So, I don't really know how to approach this again. Dang it! Running into roadblocks. Let's see here. So I need to have generic calls for receiving things like ints, floats, strings, etc. I have to have an output of some kind, but I don't really know where that output is going, so I can't really do much with that. Maybe if I get a manager for this, I can get that to function a little bit more easily. No, that wouldn't make sense. So for the output to work, I basically need to know what my output is, and then I need to know where it's going. But I don't know that. Well, but I do, because logic data would have an int ID for the output behavior, and that should work. But that means that I need to know what to do with it. Okay. So I don't think I can actually use an output function. I don't think that will work. Instead, jeez. So I have to do everything in one go, I'm pretty sure. So in one function, I need to receive my input, do what I'm going to do with it, and then send it off somewhere. So that means well, no, because I need to be able to allow for things like send in a base string and then send in a integer value and then replace part of the string with this integer value. So I have to allow for multiple variables that can all be done like associated with each other, which means that I need to have a single function that accepts generic objects and then does stuff with them. That's so much garbage that's going to be generated, though. Can I really not get around that? I don't think I can. Okay. We'll do that. That sucks so hard. Okay. So we're going to go to logic behavior. Let's see. So we have our input types and output types. So I think we're just going to convert this whole set of functions into this. And this is actually going to be abstract. Void receive input params object inputs. That's basically what I have to do. And then I need to output something as well. Which is going to be the same. It's going to be a arbitrary array of values of objects. Jeez. Let's just make it. There's no point in having params be there. I'm just going to have it be an object. Yeah, same thing here. This is going to be abstract now. Abstract void output. I put this here. I'm just going to say outputs. That's it. Okay, so we're going to change pretty much this. No, let's just do this. So we're going to say override, receive input. Okay, let's go ahead and delete this. Say override, output. Okay, get rid of this. Move this over to here. God, this sucks that it's going to be an object. That means that I have to convert it into an int. Which, can I even do that? Let's try it. Int inputs of 0. Okay, well, Oh, crap. Is that because I'm... Okay, let's just go say int I is equal to that. Oh, good. Okay, good. Phew. Good. That's going to generate a ton of garbage, though, which is going to suck so hard. All right, so this is going to say get variable int inputs of I. Wow, that is just the worst. Inputs of 0. Okay, so that gives us our variable. Because we're only going to have one input for Bool logic. It's only going to be an integer. And we're going to get our variable from that. From that, we are going to also figure something out, because I need to figure out how I'm going to associate outputs with this stuff. I just cannot win here. And now I know why it's been taking so long for Unity to come up with a visual scripting language. Jeez. I'm willing to bet that at least 30 minutes of the stream today has been me reacting to me trying to code this. I don't even think we'll get to our one. We might get a getter here. Maybe. Okay, so we have our variable being received now. And from that, we need to do a couple of things. We're going to say if variable is not equal null, then we're going to have to also log to the error, or to the, we're going to have to log an error, aren't we, if we don't get anything. Wow. Well, Unity still doesn't have a visual scripting system. There are third-party assets that do it, but Unity does not have one natively. Unreal has had their blueprint system since 4.0. That is true. And I am not going to get anywhere near as good as that. Although I'm trying to emulate, I guess, a pseudo system like that, like halfway. It's so complicated when you don't know what is going to be passed in. Let's see. So we can get passed in an arbitrary input. Maybe I'm just overcomplicating this. Maybe I should just have individual behaviors instead of having a single scriptable object-based class that then is assigned to an individual prefab. Maybe it would be better to have separate prefabs for all of the behaviors. Then I can customize their input. It just sucks because that's going to be custom nodes all over the place, and I don't want to do that. But I need to know. I don't. Also, actually, that won't work because I need to still be able to do this stuff when I don't have a graph. I need it to be done purely executable in sequence through code. Because this stuff has to be serializable in a format that works. Okay. Which actually means that I need to change this a bit. So I have logic data, which is supposed to represent a single node, a single logic behavior. I'm also going to need like a logic map, which is also going to be just a serializable class with information about... Oh. Duh. Well, I hope that was a duh moment. Yeah, that makes sense then. So I would have a CG underscore logic map, and that is going to be the thing that knows about inputs and outputs. Because the logic data shouldn't care about that. Well, no, it needs to know its inputs and its outputs. Crap. No, it shouldn't. I'm trying to think of... God, it's like a 3-step thing. I'm going to open up Photoshop to kind of visualize this. Okay, so we're going to want... Let's go ahead and create a screenshot. We'll just do like a 512 by 512. Okay, I'm going to fill this in. We're going to have some text here. So we're going to say, here's the map. Move that over here to the center. So, and then with that, we have individual nodes. So let's say that I want to do something like set a bool value in the logic. I want to grab a variable, or I want to set a variable's bool value. So here is going to be we're going to have a bool that we pass in to a node that's going to say set bool. Let's go ahead and capitalize these things. So we're going to say set bool. This is going to be our bool value. Set bool will have a subfield called, so here's our target. We're going to make this red so that people know it's a parameter. And then we're going to have a value. And then we're going to have a single line going, apparently it does not want to do that, like going to this value. So that value is something that gets assigned from an external node, which means, dear God, I need to have nodes that output stuff too without getting inputs. Okay, I'm going to try my solution to my problem. I hope it works. I hope it works too. That'd be very nice if it did. So I need primitive nodes too, don't I? I don't know why I didn't think of that at the beginning of this. But I'm going to need nodes for bool values that would either be true or false. I'm going to be needing int fields, float fields, string fields, and object ID fields. So let's see here. So we have our map. Well, let's start out with the basics, the core thing. So set bool is a behavior that is expecting a target value, which is a dropdown. That's the variable name. Technically, it's a variable ID. Then it's also expecting an input value of a Boolean. So that Boolean would be set somewhere else. In this case, we're using a primitive, so it's either something that just outputs true or false, depending on what you've set. And that needs to get piped into this behavior. So we need to be able to accept an arbitrary number of inputs, which we are already doing. But we need to know what those values are actually going to be. So set bool has its data, which is an ID. It's a series of IDs, and this Boolean output would also have a data and its series of IDs that would point to set bool as well as its index. Oh, geez, that complicates things a lot now, doesn't it? Because I need to know what input it was it's expecting to go to. Forgot to add a path to the generated file the linker needs. I gotta love forgetting to add paths to relevant code. Always makes it fun. Okay, so set bool will accept a value. Jeez. I think I know what I can do here. Jeez. Oh. Son of a. What about multiple output support? So I have a hard set bool here. Let's say I've set it to false, and I want it to go to two places. Do I need a whole nother bool thing for that? Oh, jeez. That's changed a lot, hasn't it? Jeez. So the map would basically be the thing that knows about all of the connections and their associations, stores that as data, then reads in behavior and node by node builds it, and then associates everything correctly. I think that would work. Also, congratulations, Jelmega. Glad to hear it worked. Jeez, this is drastic. I've been dreading this day forever. I knew this was going to be one of the toughest things I've ever done. I need a whiteboard is what I need so that I can freaking draw this stuff and visualize it a lot better than in Photoshop. I need a map manager that knows about the individual nodes associations as well as all of their outputs, which means that I need to... I was planning on working down the line, basically, but I would kind of have to actually do that in reverse, wouldn't I? So let's come up with a slightly more crazy use case here. So we're going to get rid of this. Okay. So we have our map, which is going to know about everything. And then we're going to have... I don't want to do if-else comparisons. I know I'm going to have to do that at some point. So let's just say we're going to have to use if-else comparisons anyway. Okay. So, jeez, I'm trying to think of an example, and I can think of a bunch of complex ones, but I can't think of a simple one. Let's say if a... Okay. So let's do a get bool. So we're going to say, if we get this bool, I feel like I should shrink these fonts actually a little bit. Go down to 24. We'll zoom in so it's a little bit easier for you guys to see. So we get this bool, and then we're going to say, if that bool is true, then we're going to play sound. This is just an example script. I don't know if I'm going to actually have this level of detail. So we're going to say, if this bool is true, we're going to play a sound. Otherwise, we're going to play another sound. Okay? So that's a simple if statement. But that's not actually the super complex thing. Because play sound is also going to be a whole other thing. Oh, why? Okay. Let's see. See what it generated. Wow! Good God. So this is what you have to... Well, no. So this is just what it generates. No, that's not a library file. This is for referencing external library files. Or I guess the dependencies of that. Okay, so this is still not quite what I'm trying to illustrate here. Although obviously, yeah, if else things are going to be nuts. Jeez. Also, this is a non-output scenario for play sounds. Oh, actually, no. This is no. Yeah, this is fine. Jeez. Okay. Let's actually do this. We'll say set background. And apparently I also need to make these like way less tall. Delete that. So let's say that if a bool variable is true, you're going to have a special background for this room. If it's not, then you're going to set it to something else. Um, so in that case, we would want to say, well, we would have to assign a sprite to the background. And it's still not quite what I'm trying to illustrate here. Whatever, we'll just fake this. Let's say that I have a get sprite. And let's say that, for sake of argument, for example, I'm just going to use the same background in both of these cases. So I would want to be able to do this. Basically, allow both of those things to work, and from a single sprite. So that means I need to be able to support an arbitrary number of outputs, which means that my output is going to be a singular value, but its associations are going to have to be an arbitrary number. Okay. So that's to hook into it. Jeez, that's nuts. Okay, so that means that we can have, or what rather we would want, arbitrary number of outputs, but a solid number of expected output values. Okay. Okay. I guess that kind of makes sense, right? Because DLLs are, I believe, compressed. So you would have some amount of size reduction there, assuming that your libraries weren't DLLs already. So, frack, that requires a fair amount of redoing this. So instead of input IDs, which I can't really work with, I would have to have output IDs and... Oh, jeez. Okay. Okay. We're going to need... This is going to get crazy. So we are going to need a CG underscore logic manager. And that manager is going to know all about the logic being presented to it. And we're also going to need a logic map. No, we're just going to need a logic... Because this all has to be serialized to JSON, too, at the end of the day. God, this is crazy complex. I don't even think we're going to get anything done by the end of today. So we're going to say CG underscore. That was a very demoralizing statement, and I'm very sorry for making it. But this is by far one of the most complex things I think we'll ever code in TextQuest. And if it works, even remotely, I will be very happy. So this is going to be CG logic. Crap, I would actually prefer to call it logic collection. But I'm already using that. So we're going to say logic map. Okay. And the logic map is going to be a class that is entirely data-driven. So we're going to say, make sure this is using TextQuest. It's not going to be a mono behavior. System, wow, cannot type. System dot serializable. I was looking at the wrong folder. Previous build is actually... Okay. Still, though, 273 kilobytes is pretty small still. So CG logic map is going to have a list of nodes. No, not the nodes themselves. It's going to have a list of the data. And that makes sense. I don't need... No. So output IDs would be the behaviors that it's outputting to. That's understandable. And input IDs would be the behaviors, or the inputs coming in. Now, input IDs is hard set, while output IDs is arbitrary. I can have X number of outputs, even if I only have certain output values. That makes sense. Okay. And input IDs also makes sense. Okay. I think I'm wrapping my head around it a little bit. It's just taking a little bit of time for me to get there. So we need to say using, no, not sleepy owl, system.collections.generic. Okay, this is going to be a public list of CG logic data. Okay, this is going to be our data is equal to new. Let's go ahead. Hold on, gotta send something. All right. So we have a list of all our data, and all of that is going to be stored. Actually, with this approach, do I need to handle things with the map? No, not entirely. Let me go back here to our logic behavior. So we're not going to use this anymore. We're going to have an arbitrary amount of inputs. Right. Okay. I remember now. Okay. So input IDs. This is not going to be an arbitrary amount, but it could be. It's a variable amount because it's singular data class, but it's not going to change. It's not going to have multiple inputs going into the same input index. I will have a hard set number of inputs. Outputs. I will have a set number of output values, but those outputs are going to need to go to separate areas potentially. So that means that I actually don't want a list of output IDs. I want a list of output IDs with indexes. So this is going to be, it'd be like a dictionary, I think. So it'd be a dictionary of ints and ints instead of a singular array. Okay, I know what it is. The libs needed to be included, or needed to include the decorator names plus extra and for the compiler. Okay. That does make sense. Hello, Kicked In. Welcome to the Devstream. How are you doing today? So we need to change our output IDs. Instead of being a single flat array, it needs to be a dictionary. Or, no, it could be an array of arrays. That would work. That would serialize into JSON just fine. So we would want to do something like public int, an array of int arrays, I believe is what we would want. So this would be output IDs. It's a new int 0, 0. Are you not going to like that? Oh, right now you're just going to complain because of that. Oh, really? Can I not do that? Oh, I guess I can't. That makes sense. Or can I not do a standard declaration? Okay, that's super weird, but sure, why not? So this is going to be an array of arrays, which makes sense because we're going to have index outputs that need to go to an arbitrary number of output nodes. Okay, got it. So we're going to say output individual. Oh, I can't spell individual. Individual values to an arbitrary number of, I guess, behaviors. And perhaps I should make these lists of lists and a list of inputs instead of an array, just because those things are going to get set at runtime, and constantly generating arrays is probably not going to be good for me. Oh, also list. We're going to say using system.collections.generic. Okay, let's go ahead and make this a new list. Ints. So we're going to have a list of ints. It's going to be that. This. Do that. That should work. Also say new list int. All right. based on index here. Geez, this is getting crazy. We're going to come back here. And our data does not really care about itself anymore. And now that we're putting an arbitrary number of inputs to our... Oh, no, I have to... Right, this is... Okay, this is where things are going to get kind of messy. I can't act on inputs without getting passed in those values, which kind of means that this is... It's weird. So I need to store input IDs purely for things like variables and other ID retrievals, but not really so much for the behavior inputs, because those would obviously be parsed at runtime, not, preset. So, geez. Okay. So we have our behavior. We're going to receive our input, and then when we output, I'm going to go back here to get bool logic. So this is going to return a bool, basically. That is the expected thing. I'm going to go ahead and comment this. Get a bool variable from the custom game save and return its value. Returns false if there is no variable or is not a bool. Okay, so, oh boy, that means that we are going to say if variable does not equal null, we're going to say else. We are going to say output false. Oh dear, will you really not work? Wait, really? I thought bools aren't objects? Oh, you're going to make me... Okay. Oh, and also that's an array. So we're going to say new... Oh, jeez. This is... Ah! Okay. Object 1 with false as its value. That's not going to be super great, honestly, passing in a ton of arrays that have to be created every time. Let's go ahead and... Oh, you know what? Actually, I can do this, can't I? I can say private object array. If I could spell object array, we'll say output array is equal to new object of 0. Let's actually go ahead and put that in the base class, which kind of makes sense. So we're going to come back here to our logic behavior. We're going to come up here. We are not going to serialize it, but it will be protected. Okay. So what we're going to want to do here is, if we do want to have an initialize function, probably wouldn't hurt. Actually, you know what? Let's just go ahead and do it this way. So now we will have an initialize function. It's just not going to do much really. Say protected void initialize, and it's going to start by just saying if output values or output array dot length is equal to 0. Then we're going to say output array dot length. I'm sorry, not length. Output array is equal to new object array of input input types dot length. I believe that would no. It would be output types dot length. There we go. That should work. Okay, and we'll just call initialize on all of our receive inputs, which probably means I should just make this virtual. So we'll say virtual. Let's go ahead, add this in, and we'll just say initialize. Okay. And then that means I can come over here to get bool logic. We'll call base dot receive input based on I'm sorry, inputs. Okay. And for that, we are going to. So the reason that I can do that, even though I said I should have everything in one through function, is because that array is going to be populated purely per pass through of this, and I don't know what that's going to do if you have multiple ones. Presumably it would be fine. Hopefully they won't get crossed up. That'd be stupid if they did. I don't know why I thought that they would. That's not how code works, Chris. Okay, so this means that I can just actually go ahead and say output array, which actually kind of makes that redundant now that I think about it, but that's fine for now. And then we'll go ahead and say output array of 0 is equal to false. Okay. And then we're going to say switch variable dot type. We're going to say case variable type dot bool. We're going to do something. We'll say break. And then otherwise we'll just say default break. We'll say output array of 0 is equal to variable dot bool value. Otherwise we'll say output array of 0 is equal to false. And then after that we're just going to say output array. Okay. And then from here we're going to simply say we want to go to crap. Yeah, here's where things don't really work. I don't know where to output it to. So I've received my input and I've done something with it, but now I need to spit it out to all of my associated arrays. Okay. Let me think. I could potentially populate this at input. Jeez. The only annoying thing I need to do for my compilation to work now is when I add a C++ file, I need to add its corresponding to a text file, but it's a lot better than doing that with the file manually. Yeah, I mean, automation is a wonderful thing. Once you start automating things like that, it just gets harder and harder to go back and do things manually, which is fine. I mean, there's no point to go back and do things manually when you have an automated process like that. So hopefully that'll cut down on your dev time a bit. Although I guess, well, you have to do it manually though. I know you have to just add it to a text file, so that's actually much better. Alright, so we're outputting our values, but now I need to know how I'm going to output them. Because I don't know where they're going. My data knows where it's going, but my behavior can't know that. Which means that I need to pass in this list on input. But we don't care about this. We just care about this. Okay. So, what if logic behavior also came with outputs? So like the input received. Let's go ahead and also call this output values. Okay, so I could do like a comma, a list. Okay, yeah, that's not gonna. It's gonna be this. Let's go ahead and paste this in. Say outputs. Okay, we're going to say using, not sleepy, system.collections.generic. Fix that little issue, which means that we're going to want to copy this, go back up here to get bool logic, paste that in, paste you in. You're not liking that because of using system.collections.generic, which is going to have to be in everything now, which is a little unfortunate. Why are you? Oh, right. I was going to say, why are you so mad? Outputs is why you're mad. Okay. So, with that, I still need to go to my logic behavior. And we can actually have our, I don't want to do initialize. We can have our receive input here handle that. So we're going to want to have, God, the same thing here pretty much. We're going to copy this, paste this here, and we will say protected output IDs. That's all fine. For this, in initialize, we'll go ahead and say output IDs dot add range outputs, and then of course here we'll go ahead and say output IDs dot clear in our initialize function. Let's go back up here to our bool logic. We'll pass that in. That will generate all of our IDs, which means that when we come down here to output, we can simply say for int I equals 0, I is less than output IDs dot count I plus plus, and then we're going to say output IDs of I, piece of crap. Okay. Oh, I can't do that. Oh, dang it, I can't. I can't make direct calls to my next behaviors, actually. That won't work. Because if I did that, jeez, okay. So this is not going to work. So if I passed, or if I tried to reference the behaviors directly, then I would try to pass in information that could be incomplete, because you could have multiple situations, or like this, where I have, actually this is a really terrible one, my original example of the setting a bool value, that's going to take an input of it's going to take two inputs, and I can't that's actually a pretty bad one too, because it's kind of generated by itself, but it's taking multiple inputs, and I can't just have, once one input is ready to go, I can't just have it rush off and start trying to have the next behavior function. The map needs to pull those values out of the individual behavior and then move them over all at once. Okay. God, that just got way more complicated. So this doesn't work. I can't really do that, which actually means that I don't need a list of that in my behavior. Nothing's going to actually come from that. I can delete that because the data class is what's important there, so we can get rid of that. So that means that our map needs to look at this output ID and figure out where all of that stuff needs to go. Jeez. I'll save time. I made a replacement for the library for me to use. Extra time to reinvent the wheel. Well, yeah, but of course reinventing the wheel at least means that you can make it as smooth as you want, so you can go super fast or super slow depending on what you need. Jeez. Okay. So I'm going to put some to-dos in here. To-do, need to grab the... Okay. So we need each behavior to process its inputs and generate outputs. Grab those outputs and pass them to the Jeez. Oh man, this gets way worse. I don't think I can actually do this in a front to back manner. I have to do this from the end result forward, or end result backwards. I can't go from like on room entry. I want to get this variable, and then I want to grab check that variable. If it's true, then do this. If it's false, then do this. I actually need to work backwards, I think, from the output so that I can always have the inputs and get them when I need them. And then I can just keep going backwards to grab inputs as far as I need. So that means I need to start at end of chain and work way forward. That is not exactly, because part of the other problem is that this map could have a bunch of things that happen, which is not great. Yeah, that's certainly a much more tame file, but still. Jeez. So we need it to process its inputs and generate outputs. Down here in custom bool logic, to do cannot call next, well, cannot output directly to next behavior. Need map to handle outputs. And this also gets us into the unfortunate situation of like, I don't want to have the extra overhead of running a behavior multiple times if it's referenced multiple times, especially if that behavior is something like get bool, which should just get a single bool, and that should never change. So I need that to return a constant value once it's been received, which is not great, but could be done based off of Jesus. That's okay. You could probably do something like the control flow in Unreal 4. Well, see, the problem is that let's go back to Photoshop real quick. Let's just nuke this. So let's say I have a situation where I have a get bool. Oh, yeah, of course I'm going to need to change the file size on that again. Shrink that down to 24. So we have a get bool. And we also have like a get int. And then we have do something node that requires a bool input. Well, we'll just say bool. Make that red to know that it's an input. And then we have an int, which I can't type, so it's an ini. An int, it's also an input. Let's go back here to u. So we're going to do this. So I have a node called do something that requires an input from a bool and an integer. So that means that I know what I need to do with this. It's got some logic. And I guess actually let's go ahead and say on top of that, this is going to output a bool. So say do some else. Go ahead and change that real quick to white. Collapse that down to 24. And do some else is going to require a bool, which is of course going to have to be red. And that is going to be done from this. So the end result is do something else, which is going to require a bool, which means that I need to get the value from do some, which requires a bool input and a int input from get bool and get in, which means that I need to do both of those things. But here's, oh crap, why did I do But here's the thing: if I work front to back, then I would evaluate get bool. Its value would be true or false, and then it's done. But I can't really do anything with that output yet because I don't know where that output's going to go, and I don't know what to do with it. Same thing with int. Int is also going to get an integer value, and then once it's done, it's done. It needs to go somewhere, but it doesn't know where it needs to go, and it doesn't really care. And if I keep the reference to the doSum, then I could try to call pass this input, this integer value over to doSum, but doSum isn't ready to receive that yet because I need the bool and the integer together. I can't just send them one at a time. Because I could have something else in the graph doing this doSum that's also taking a bool and an int, and since it's a scriptable object, that means that it's always going to execute. It's going to set its values when it's requested to do so. So if I have multiple calls being made at the same time, they could overlap each other if it's not done in one clean go. So I need to basically generate these values, store them somewhere, and then once they're done, then I can send all of that over to doSum. That's if I do it forward to back. If I do it from the back forwards, then I can just always request my inputs when I need them. So I can say I need a bool here, so I need to go back up to doSum. Okay, doSum needs a bool over here. I'm going to get the bool, goes over here. I need the int. Get the int, goes over here. Okay, we're ready. Now do the doSum. Okay, that's done. Return that bool over to doSum else. We're done. So that set of logic basically means that I don't have to have values floating out in space. Instead, I can just request them when I need them, and I'll get them when I need them. And it'll let me actually, handle all of that fairly cleanly, I think. But doing it front to back just requires, even though I'd prefer to do it that way because that makes more logical sense to me, it means that I'm going to have values floating in space potentially for a while. And for a while, I mean, that's probably, it's less than a frame, but they're not always going to be done at the same time, and I have no way of guaranteeing that. So I need to be able to request those values, and let's see. Well, I don't mean that. You have execution path. It encounters doSum, sees that it needs two values from getters, and then get something. Then you go to doSum else. Yeah, that would work. But I mean, that's essentially what I was saying, where it gets it gets the input values that it needs, and then it does something with them, and then it outputs a value over to do something else. But again, keep in mind, what if I have a situation like, hold on, like this, where I have two things in the graph, because both of these things could be going on in parallel, and because these behaviors are scriptable objects, they don't have private variables that can get set independently of one another. They're going to be shared. So this get bool will step on this get bool if I'm not careful. And I have to do it through scriptable objects actually because I need this stuff to execute in code without having a physical graph be present. Because when this stuff is going on in the background, it's just a loop of core logic. It doesn't actually care about individual lineups of all these things. They've just got standardized inputs and outputs that should be expected. So and I think what I'm going to have to do is basically allow these things to generate, then tell the map that they're done and what their values are, and then when doSum I wish I had my water bottle here. Then when doSomething requests something, it can say, hey map, I need all of these variables from these outputs, or from these IDs. Do you have them? No? Get them done, and then let me know. And then it can kind of just go from there. Well, I don't know. I do think that we're probably going to have to call it a night. I know it's a little early, and I know I haven't really accomplished anything. But I have to have some guests coming over, so I need to get ready for that. Jeez, I'm not going to say it was disappointing today because we actually do have an approach. I think I'm a little sad that I couldn't get even one thing working, which is of course obvious obviously that was going to happen because I had so much hubris at the beginning. I'm like, maybe we'll get these 4 things done. Maybe one of them. Nope, not even one. I think I have an idea of how to approach this, but I think I need to do a better job of actually sitting down and like drawing this out, how I want it to work visually, and then how I want it to work in execution. Um, Maybe generate something based on the graph instead of using the graph. What do you mean? Because I was using the graph as kind of like visual aid for what things would sort of look like in the actual physical graph. But the problem is that I'm not going to always have a graph there. I'm not going to have those physical nodes. Those are purely visual constructs to help humans set up logic. But I need the logic to work independently of those nodes. Because when you're playing the game, the logic is just an invisible thing going on in the background. It's not going to be a node that you see or that exists, because it would be really weird to do that. So I can't really depend on that. And since it's a series of logic behaviors going on in the background, they're scriptable objects, which means that all of their values will be overridden if I'm not careful, which means I need them to generate their outputs as soon as they get their inputs so that it's all correct whenever they get them. There's not going to be cross-contamination or anything like that. I don't know. I think it would probably be good for me to come up with a visual design of how I want things to flow, and then try to get that to be implementable. So I think that's where we're going to leave off today. Cautiously optimistic that we will be able to make this work, because I kind of view it as a necessity. So yeah, I apologize we didn't get nearly as much cool things done or as many cool things done as I would have liked today, but that's the way things go, I guess. But on the bright side, Joe Mega, at least you got something done. The graph just defines something, which the code converts to a separate structure, which has an execution order based on it. Yeah, and that's kind of what we were leading up to with the. So we have the data class, which has information on input IDs and output IDs. So that's the behaviors that need to receive these outputs when they're done, as well as the input values going into this. And then we have the logic map, which is going to have a list of all of that. And then it would know how to do that. The problem I am having there is the execution order. Because I could have a behavior that's getting its output used in multiple places, which means that I can't really have like a flat structure where it's like, execute A, then B, then C, all the way to Z. Because I could have, Z is the end goal, but then I could have execute A, execute B, execute C, execute H, execute B again, and then execute H again. So, yeah. In any case, yeah, we're going to call it a night, too. So, we will hopefully. I'm going to try to get a better structure in place for this, because I think we have an approach here. I just need to iron out the kinks, figure out what my thought process is here. So, thank you very much, Jamaica, though, for talking this through with me. It's always nice to be able to talk through my thought process on this. It helps clarify things, I think. In any case, so we're going to call that a night. As always, I want to call brain fry. Also very thirsty. So, as always, I want to execution order. See, I don't think I can use a data tree either, because you could have, again, cross-referencing across branches. That could work. I don't know. I need to figure out how I want to do that. And I would also like to avoid overhead of having the same behavior. God, my throat is so dry. Excuse me. Of having the same behavior execute multiple times whenever it's requested. I would actually like it to be able to store that value. That would be nice, but I can't really do that. So, yeah, I don't know. We'll figure that out. So, as always, I want to thank you all very much for watching, and I will see you all next time.